Good morning and happiest of holidays to all of you, and to you I'm going to ask you, go sit right there, okay? In just a moment, Miss Courtney, we're going to watch something I think you'll really enjoy. Logan will like it too. Oh my gosh, so who's ready for the holidays? Yeah, a couple of hands went up. You know, my thing is, well, not really and don't care, okay? So it's all good. It's working out in that end. So this morning, we're going to talk about one of the most central components of the teaching of Christianity, that thing that's been coined the greatest story ever told. Of course, that is the birth of the one that is currently called Jesus. Now, I know that all of you are familiar with this story. More than likely, you were raised in some kind of Christian teaching, and you heard this, or you perhaps even heard it on that beloved American, whatever you call it, pillar of amazement, Peanuts, okay? Yeah. But let's get it this morning from some spiritual masters. Tony, can you show us the next video, please?
An angel came to see Mary. She was doing laundry, and then the angel just appeared and she was really scared. So Gabriel was like, Mary, you're gonna have, I can't say it good. Mary, you're gonna have a baby. You're gonna have a baby, and you will call him Jesus. And then Mary was like, I'm not gonna have a baby yet. I'm only a teenager. I'm not married. Then the angel Gabriel told Joseph that Mary is not lying. You are having a new baby. And so they met up. They went to Bethlehem, which was Joseph's old town. They ride a donkey. I don't know. A camel. Oh yeah, a camel. She said, this donkey's fast. They tried to go to a hotel and they asked the keeper for a place to stay. The keeper said,
we have no rooms. Literally, no rooms. So Mary and Joseph walked away sadly, but then he said,
the only place here in Bethlehem that you can stay is a stable. And then he just pointed the way and they followed. When the shepherds were taking care of the sheep,
then they saw angels.
The angel said, a new baby is getting born, who is King of the Jews.
The angel was singing, glorious.
And then the shepherds said, I think we should go there and meet him. The second, I think, said, yeah, I agree with you. And the other said, yeah, me too. They had to walk through a bunch of grass and bushes, maybe have to camp out a night. And then the wise men heard about it.
And then a star appeared.
We should probably follow that star. It's pointing down to the barn.
So maybe we should follow it. Maybe. So the wise men went to Jesus.
They gave them gifts.
A stuffed animal, like a hippo one, that I have at home.
Some diapers, and some wipes, and some milk, some shoes, some Jordans.
Gold ring and Latimer.
And I don't know how it would survive in that barn. Too stinky, too crowded, and ugh.
I think he probably pooped because the room was very smelly. Thank you for coming.
He's adorable.
He's gonna be our best friend.
I love you, and you the best baby I ever seen. There, I said it.
The new baby is gonna change the world.
Now there you have it. Are we clear about the underpinnings of the Christian story about the birth of Jesus? You can keep going there, Tony. It'll bring back up. There we go. So you've got the basic idea, right? That the teaching of Christianity essentially revolves around the birth of Jesus about 2,000 years ago in a town called Bethlehem. Okay? Yeah, I love that. But what we find is that when we start looking at that story and we start looking at the historical presence of it, Christianity is the new kid on the block. This is very new, okay? Insofar as that story showing up. It is not a story that is kindled simply in the minds and the hearts of those who embrace Christian teachings. In fact, what we find when we look deeper is that the story of a Savior, a Holy One, coming to light the way for the rest of us is present in many mythological teachings. Can we see the next slide there, Tony? If we go all the way back, starting at the top, about 5,000 years ago, what we find is the Egyptian deity Horus, one of the most prominent spiritual fellows, if you will, deities of Egypt. Essentially, Horus was the son of Isis, said to be a virgin. Horus walked on water. He healed the sick. He was crucified, dead for 3 days, and was resurrected. The second one down is a little bit closer in time. About 3,200 years ago, we find Mithra in the Persian, or what is now Iranian, teachings. Mithra was the sun god. This is in pre-Zoroastrian lore that Mithra comes about. Again, he was born to a virgin, supposedly on December 25th. He had 12 disciples, performed miracles, was dead for 3 days, and was resurrected. Next down on the chart we find Krishna about 2,900 years ago, born of a virgin. He was called Star of the East, also called Son of God, performed miracles. His father was a carpenter. He was resurrected. More recently, we find Dionysus about 2,500 years ago, not too far before the birth of Christ. This is in Greek lore. You got it, born of a virgin. We're getting kind of consistent here, aren't we? On December 25th, no less, traveling teacher turned water into wine. And if we keep studying things like Joseph Campbell's A Hero with 1,000 Faces, what we find is that there's many cultural teachings of one who came to support, to help grow the consciousness of humankind. In fact, I think Joseph Campbell identified 13 or maybe even 16 different stories that relate that teaching, including the stories of Attis, Adonis, and Gilgamesh. You can go online and look at the works of Joseph Campbell. There's a Joseph Campbell Foundation now that talks a lot about this. One of my earliest teachers, Christina Groff, was a student of Campbell's at Sarah Lawrence College for many years. So, pretty amazing individual in the work that he did. So, the entire teaching of Christianity rests upon the beginnings of this story of a virgin birth, a babe in a manger, and then what we know when we look deeper is that Christianity wasn't the first situation to believe that many teachings, in fact, an awful lot of cultural, historical teachings tell us about, again, someone special who came to light the way. All of that to me is really interesting because I was brought up in a denomination, in a teaching that told me Christianity is all there ever is, it's all there ever was, that's all that can be, and anything else that doesn't fit into this box is, you just need to disregard it. They didn't really talk down about anything, they just said look the other way. And yet what we find again when we look back through the archives of humanity, we find huge components of stories that are the same. One of the things that we subscribe to here in this metaphysical teaching of Science of Mind here at Open Door Center is that often stories and parables are used by spiritual teachers as a way to provide infrastructure or kind of the rudimentary components, if you will, of an understanding or a teaching or a lesson. Yeshua did that, and of course that's the Hebrew pronunciation of Jesus. Many others did that too. They would very skillfully embed a deeper meaning into a story that at the surface level could be taught to a child. And so the deeper meaning was left for those who had the awareness, the consciousness, to be able to grasp that. Another thing that we've done here at Open Door Center throughout the years is we've looked at that concept that Carl Jung identified, that he referred to as archetypes. Carl Jung, of course, was a Swiss psychiatrist. He recognized this kind of bigger than life, larger than life idea that we have about many things. A good example is motherhood, that we just kind of have this epitome of motherhood, of what mother should be: virginal, blessed, always loving, always giving, always nurturing, not the least bit human, cranky, between jobs or whatever, okay? Perhaps it's possible that the story of a teacher come to save mankind, support mankind, light the way, is yet another example of an archetypal message that we are being provided that says, hey, it isn't so much the components of any one teaching as it is this message that there is something deeper, something greater, and always that thing, that wholeness, that holiness is being birthed anew in each and every moment. It's particularly impressive to me that the story is found throughout times, throughout cultures, throughout teachings. Very often in our lives today, what we see when we turn on the news is this teaching saying we're right, and if you're not with us, you're wrong. And this one over here going, oh no, well you're sent to eternal, not heaven, the other place, okay? You got me, because of what you believe. And yet I believe that what we have to do is look past that divisive stance and find the components that tell us the same thing, regardless of history, regardless of time, regardless of culture. That, to me, is huge. Perhaps this story, this parable of a birth of a babe in a manger, coming to a virgin, having qualities that set that individual apart from the normal, typical human persona, is pointing to an awareness that within every one of us there is a greater strength, a more complete potentiality, an essence that exists beyond the realm of death, divisiveness, and destruction. Perhaps this story calls to us to understand that what we might call Christ consciousness, that it lives within the bosom of each and every one of us, that it is a consciousness so whole and holy that by its very nature it can never be defiled, derailed, stamped out, or taken away. Perhaps the message here is that each and every one of us is that Christ consciousness. And if we will but own it, if we will say yes to it, if we will marry it and allow it to have its way with us, our lives will evolve, not just singularly, but collectively, as a species, as a spiritual humanity, and will bring experiences about that we never imagined before. In his 1929 article, Christ and Christmas, the founder of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, tells us this. Christ, the perfect man in us, is developed within us through the realization and the revelation of the self to the self. That's the little s, self, to the big S, self. What I believe that Ernest is teaching here is that it is eminently important for us as individuals to recognize that God's stuff lives within us. Ernest continues, this overbrooding presence, this inner sense of a greater reality bears witness to itself through our greatest acts and in our deepest emotions. Who is there who has not at times felt the inner stirrings of this presence? It is impossible to escape our true nature, for the very voice of truth is ever insistent. The urge to unfold is constant. In the long run, each one of us will fully express his or her own personal divinity. And we know that others realize too that this light, this Godhead, if you will, lives within us. One of those others was James Dillett Freeman, the Unity minister and poet, who I didn't realize until looking at this weekend, just passed away in 2003. I thought he was like dead a long time ago, like all our people, most of them were long gone, right? James Dillett Freeman tells us this in a portion of his poem entitled, I Am There. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light that you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your very hands. Only in absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me as I am, and then, but as a feeling and a faith. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the very stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. This poem received a lot of attention in 1971 when a copy of this was given to James Irwin, the astronaut, before his vessel took him to the moon. He received that from his mother, and so the story goes that he left a copy of this poem on the moon. When I think about this, and I open my heart to the awareness that that divine something is ever present everywhere, I know it's on the moon. I know the moon speaks this truth that we hold in our hearts this moment. I know that the sun and the stars are that very truth. I see it twinkle sometimes when the cloud cover lets it shine. So how do we assimilate this story, this virgin birth thing, into our day-to-day experiences here on planet Earth? Well, I believe that we can look to the story of Mary and Joseph. They were alone. They were away from home. She was young, just a child, really, if it really even happened. Wandering, seeking shelter in which to bring forth new life and new light. And we can see through their experience, through the mists, we can find a virtual map, so to speak, one that will guide us through this time, its trials, its pain, and its suffering. Perhaps the tragic scenarios playing out in Aleppo, happening in our very state capital, where our legislators continue to try to rob citizens of their very civil rights. Across the globe, where we see poverty, disunity, and division. Perhaps these things may serve as simply hallmarks of the throes of a violent birth. Thomas Jefferson coined that phrase, by the way, about the birth of this nation. Perhaps this is a birth so violent, just as violent as the one that we saw when we seceded from Great Britain. I believe we must go forth in every new moment, and we must, you and I, in those little small moments, be the new consciousness, the God consciousness that this world needs right now. I believe it is ours to stand spiritually straight and tall, to be the love, the power, the peace, and the compassion that we wish to see ringing true from every mountain, birthing from every valley. I believe that each of us is that scared teenager that was Mary, and that brilliance that burst forth from within her, that came to be a light, a shining presence in a time of darkness. I believe it is our turn and our time to shine the light on our light and to live from every possible moment from that place of truth and nothing less. So as we move through this holiday season, please pick yourselves up. Please hold yourselves high. If you feel pain, just as Tom suggested, find a resting place for your heart. Allow that to heal. Allow your soul to be comforted somehow. Find some peace, some wholeness, some centeredness. And as you find that, be the gift of sharing it into this world. We need our strength. We need our unity. We must not look at those unbelievable things that are happening across our country and our globe and condemn those who are behind them. We must recognize within the heart and soul of everyone that there is truly light, and that we, as light, can call that forth. Please be the light of truth that lives in your own deepest heart. And know always that you are loved.